If you want to make your own art journal but you're not sure where to start, this no sewing binding method is the easiest way to create a journal, and you don't even need many supplies to get started. I'm using these mini envelopes. You can use envelopes of any size, and I'm also using some cardboard packaging here that will become my cover. So you could use like a cereal box, scrapbook paper, anything that you have to hand. So raid the recycling for any fairly thick cardboard that you can use as your cover. And then you'll also need a glue stick, some scissors. I'm using twine, but you could also use some scrap ribbon and a hole punch as well. So this no-sew binding method is a really easy way of creating a concertina accordion style fold journal, but there is no measuring, no sewing, none of that like intricate stuff involved. Essentially, all we're going to be doing is gluing the envelopes together. So you can see here I've got them laid out with the flap of the envelope pointing to the right, and then I'm just going to glue my second envelope onto the top of that flap there, and you can see that creates our first little page. And then what I'm going to do is open up the flap on the next envelope and then grab the third envelope. And what I'm going to do is actually fold this back on itself. So we're essentially creating a bit of a zigzag pattern, and this way then the journal will fold into something that is a concertina style. So you can see here it's always basically the envelopes facing in the same direction. So if you had like a huge long table, you could spread yourself out and essentially just have all of the envelopes facing in one direction, gluing them all together, all facing up the same way as well. And then the folds will just be alternating. So as you can see here, with a bit of a zigzag. So if you folded one in on the left, then you'll go to the right, and then the left, and then the right. So you're just going back and forth on yourself as you're adding these envelopes, and you can add as many or as few envelopes as you would like to create the main structure of your journal. And as you can see, the joy of using envelopes is that you also get some built-in pockets as well that you don't need to do any work for. So that's why I said it's basically the easiest journal that you could make. It's really great if you're just getting started, or even if you want to have a play around with a different style of art journal as well. So I'm using these small envelopes here, but you could use envelopes of different sizes, of different shapes. The same principle applies in terms of gluing your envelope to the back of the next envelope and then just having your folds in alternate directions. And of course, you don't even need to go out and buy envelopes necessarily. You could also collect junk mail envelopes. As long as they are roughly the same size, then this principle will work. But you know, it could also be fun to do this same method with envelopes of different shapes and sizes. I think there's so many different ways that you can play around with this sort of basic principle. So it's a much easier and quicker way of creating an accordion journal. And then once you're happy with the number of envelopes that you have for your pages, it's time to do our cover. So here I'm just using these boxes that were packaging and had some really nice patterns on them that I thought would work well for covers. So any cardboard or even thick cardstock that will add a bit of structure to your cover will work well for this. So all I'm doing is just taking one of these spare envelopes and I'm just seeing where might be best for me to cut out a cover, a front cover and a back cover, because there's some branding or some writing on certain parts, and obviously I want the part that has just the pattern. So I was literally just using the little envelope there as a guide for me to cut out my covers, and then I made sure that they were the right size. So I'm just using the envelope as a guide. Like I said, there is absolutely no measuring or preciseness going on here. So I am just using that envelope as a guide and then making sure that it fits the cover for this journal, and I'm going to cut out two of these, obviously one for the front and then one for the back. So again, I'm just checking to see whether I have enough space there with just the pattern on it, and then I've cut this one out as well. So This packaging is actually quite shiny, which you could totally leave if you like that look, but I prefer a more matte journal. So what I actually ended up doing was using some gel matte medium and adding that to the journal cover, and it didn't completely make it matte, but it really, really subdued that shininess, that high gloss, and I don't know, made it feel a bit more upmarket, I suppose, in terms of the look and feel of the journal. And I think it kind of matched the craft envelope look that I had going on as well. So I just wanted to mention that because it was something that I did after the fact, and then I realised once I'd finished filming that I didn't have footage of me actually doing that step, but that is what I did for the cover. So I'm just adding on the front and the back here. So just be mindful that when you're adding your covers, obviously you will be turning the journal back to front and then using that as the other side. So just in case you want the pattern to be a particular way when you glue this onto the envelopes, but I'm literally just using my glue stick here and then just lining it up onto each of the envelopes at either end of our big long string of envelopes, essentially, to create the front and the back cover. And it's really that simple. Then you have your journal. Now we can go a step further here, and I'm actually going to show you how you could include some tags here if you wanted to. So if you had a journal that had larger envelopes, obviously you've got way more room to play with, but this journal looks like it was the perfect size almost for these tags here, and I was just cutting them to size and just seeing what potentially that might look like in terms of adding tags to this journal as well. So you can see here they're the perfect size. So if you were making this maybe as a little gift for somebody who also likes creative stuff, you could maybe include some washi samples or some little stationery bits and pieces. Maybe if you were sending this to like a pen pal, if it was a smaller version. There's so many different ways that you can take this format and turn it into another creative project. So I'm just going to hole punch the front cover here in the middle towards the edge, and this just makes a perfect spot to add some twine, or like I said, you could also use maybe some ribbon, something from a gift bag perhaps. And how much twine you need will depend on how big the journal is that you're making. So I just eyeballed this to make sure that I had roughly enough to go around the journal, and you will want to bear in mind as well, if you add any bulk to the journal, then obviously it will need to accommodate that as well. So I'm just tying it round the hole there that I'd hole punched and tied a knot just to secure it, and that is my closure for this mini journal. See, I told you it was super easy. This is so quick to put together if you want a quick little art journal to work in. Now, if you're wondering what I'm going to be doing with such a small little journal, then I am going to be working on my No Sew November prompts, which I'll pop on the screen here. So this was something that I did last year, so I'll leave a link down below if you want to see the videos from last year, but essentially it's just a little bit of a celebration of creating in no-sew journals. So this is just one of many ways that you can create a no-sew journal. I have quite a few tutorials on my channel, so if you want to make a quick no-sew journal and join in with the fun, I will leave a link down below where you can access all of the daily prompts. You don't have to do all of them, you can mix and match and just do a few, but they are there for you if you want to use them. And I will show you, of course, how I'm creating within my no-sew journal as well. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you'll join me for No-Sew November. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.